feel like you're playing by the money rules, but stuff still isn't adding up?
That's because some of the biggest financial truths are actually lies. And today, we're back for part 3 of our series of the biggest money myths.
Like the idea that renting is throwing away money somehow, and that building wealth can only be achieved by a 6-figure salary? What's that all about?
And what if I told you that retirement isn't just about stopping work, but choosing to work on what actually excites you?
So in today's episode, we are going to be exposing all that and more. So stick around because it might just change the way you see and how you feel about money forever. For the Five Guys, let's get into it.
All right, Dom. So today is a historic 3-parter on the biggest money lies that I've experienced as a financial advisor over the past 10 years. Now, I wanted to make this just a 1-parter, and then we just kept on talking. So I promised to both you and the viewers that today, well, it's going to be a loose promise, but it's a promise that we are going to finish this today. We have 6 more money lies. I actually thought of a few more while I was off, but I decided not to write them down. So we're just going to stick with the 17 that we have. So we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 today of our biggest money lies that I have learned over the past decade. Are you ready for that?
I'm so freaking ready. I am excited to get on with this podcast and finish out the money lies because, truth be told, honestly, I got some insider information. Don't report me. But next week's podcast, I'm so freaking excited for it. It's a secret pod, so you're going to have to stay tuned, turn on the notifications, follow the channel on every platform that you can to be ready and willing to listen to that podcast next week. But this week, like Chris said, we're talking a little bit more about the money lies in a historic part 3 episode. And I am stoked, as always, to listen to the lies that I've been told all my life. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Chris, what is the next money lie on our gigantic list? Do we dare ever even recap this starting from 1?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
They
Definitely
can listen to the other 2. They can listen to the other 4 podcasts we've done. That's there for them. So we're just going to pick up on number 12. And this is a biggie. This is one that make people lose their freaking minds. And that is, renting is throwing away money.
Ooh. Dude, you're starting off strong. That is a cultural fire starter right there. You know, wow. Yeah, I'm sure everybody listening here has picked a side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, maybe
automatically, left or right? Which way are you going? 100%. So you're saying that, do you want to go a little bit deeper into that real quick?
Yeah, what I'm saying though is that the lie is that that renting is always throwing away money and that buying is always the right choice. You know, I've never gone to a restaurant before and then they come and they bring me my food and I do this stuff. I'm like, oh God, I just threw away all this money. Like I could have just done this at home where at least I own the food or something like that.
Yeah.
And I could have done all this. I think about the exact same way when I rent a house. You know, renting a house in many ways provides flexibility and it frees up cash, which allows you to invest. I've always liked the saying that your mortgage is the lowest amount you're going to pay, where my rent is the highest amount I'm going to pay.
So, okay. So why would the rent be the highest and the mortgage be the lowest?
So with the mortgage, it's the lowest amount that you're going to pay, right? Because with every time that you have a mortgage, anything that goes wrong with the house, dryer breaks, roof starts to leak, AC goes out, you're paying for all those things. You're paying the taxes on the house. You're paying everything that happens. When you rent, you know that you have a controlled cost. Is it a little bit higher than what the person with the mortgage pays? Yeah, most likely it is. But with that, you get the flexibility to leave whenever you want. If you have to break a contract, you have to wait a little bit, there it is. But more importantly, if the roof starts to leak, if the AC goes out, if your dryer stops working, rather than saying like, oh my God, the average American doesn't even have $400 to fix a tire replacement. Imagine 10 grand to fix a roof, 15 grand to fix an AC unit, where the person who has the house, who owns the mortgage, well, they're going to have to either take out a loan or they're going to have to work extra hard or they're going to have to put it on their credit card or they're going to have to ask mommy and daddy for some money. The person who rents does one thing. They make a phone call to the landlord. They make a phone call to the property manager and they say, hey, this thing is broken. And if you're in a state like Arizona, where you have laws that say, hey, if the AC is broken, the landlord has 24 hours to have somebody out there diagging it and 48 hours for it to be repaired. Now, not all states are the same like that. Some states are a little bit different. There are bad landlords, there are bad tenants, there are bad property managers. All these things are true, but it's a balance as to what you want. Do you want it to be guaranteed that no matter what goes wrong, if you own the house, you have to fix it? Or do you want it to be, hey, I'm in this house, it's not my house, but if anything goes wrong, it's not on me.
Yeah.
As long as I didn't actually physically destroy the thing myself.
Right.
It's probably on you.
And I'm curious if you guys have any opinions on this, or a way that you're for renting or against renting. Please leave it in the comment section over on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, you're more than welcome. Apparently you can leave comments on Spotify. I don't know. Apparently, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I don't know. But if you can, please go for it, because we want to hear what you guys think about this, right? We want this to be an epicenter of conversation and for you to be included in this dialogue. So please leave a comment and maybe even share it with a friend to see if they can get in on this conversation as well. I agree with you. I'm gonna take both sides, right? Because I can see both sides, right? This is the most common example you'll hear in regards to this topic. Is one I hear a lot, is when you go to the hospital. You're not buying the room, you're not buying the equipment, you're renting the room, right? You're renting the doctor's time, right? All these things, right? You wouldn't buy a doctor, you wouldn't buy the hospital, right? Very expensive process. And I agree. I will say, now I know we're talking about renting, and I love renting. I love it. I think it's a great thing for people. I think it's a great thing for the landlord. I think it's a win-win, right? You offer a service, you offer a good, you get paid in regard to what you offer, what you provide, right? I love that. I will say, and this is not exactly on topic, but it's a parlay. It's right next to the topic. How do you feel about like the subscription model for everything, though?
I don't love it.
I don't love it
either. There are
either.
some things that you should own or like have that you don't have to continually make a payment for.
Yeah.
But on things of, when it comes to a house, or like a place to live, you're going to need that. It is required. Like it's not 100% required, but for our purposes, it is required to have a place to lay your head, have a roof over you. But the thing that's not required is where that house is. The moment that you purchase the house, that you're locked into that place. And from someone who has moved around quite a bit, I've been in San Diego, Sacramento, here in Arizona, I've moved around in different places in each one of those areas too. You realize that if I had that house that locked me in, can I move? Yeah, I still could, but it makes it so much more difficult. Even when you rent, moving is extremely difficult. It's a lot of work. Now imagine also having to, before you do that, sell the house and maybe purchase a new house or do any of these crazy things. Another thing that I really like about renting is when you move into a house, say it's your forever home, you buy your first house, you're so excited, you get in there. The moment you walk in, you start to see everything that you want to change, to make better, to make more customized to you, because that house is a representation of who you are as a person. So what you start doing is people will put all their money they can to buy the biggest McMansion that they possibly can. They went above budget.
What McMansion? What is that? Like a McDonald's version of what is that? I've never heard of that.
You never heard of that? Oh, it's just like it's like the American like house. It's just, I've been to other countries where like people will save up to buy like an 1,100 square foot house for like a family of 4, and they're so happy with that. Yeah. Well, here in America, like you basically be living in squalor, where it's like, well, it's not 4,000. Like there's not 3 levels and a pool in the back and a 2-car or like 4-car garage and all this stuff. When you say McMansion, that's what it is. Like the biggest, craziest American style giant house.
Am I the only one who's never heard of that? Viewers, I maybe I'm in the dark. Maybe I've spent too much time in this room. McMansion. I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it at the same time. It's kind of funny. Okay, sorry, I had to pause you on that one. Anytime there's a term I don't know, I gotta say something about it. McMansion, word of the day.
McMansion. So it's just a big ass American house. So people will go ahead, they'll put all their money, they'll go above budget to buy this big ass McMansion. The moment they walk into it, they say like, man, this is perfect. And then a few weeks later, maybe they're like, I want to fix that. I want to fix that. I want to make this different. And they start spending more money than they already didn't have to start making repairs to the house, to start changing things to, I want new shelves, new countertops, new everything. The nice thing about renting is when I rent, there has never been a time in my life that I walk into the place and I'm like, I should change all of this. I should put in new counters for the landlord and new cabinets so that I like it. I should paint everything. So it's almost a forced saving mechanism when you rent.
That's a very interesting. I never thought about that. I never thought about when you buy a house, you use everything you can to get this McMansion, quote unquote, but then you're left with not that much if you did it incorrectly. Because I know a lot of people would rather bet everything to get the house because, oh, well, the house is forever. And then we could just save up more money to upgrade later. But people are very impatient. We know this. I know I'm impatient sometimes, especially I was cooking dinner last night. It took like 2 hours. I was done with it. I was like, I'm done with it. I want it to be done now. It was, and let it be told, it was not a complicated meal. It was not advanced. I'm not even going to say what it was because you'll laugh at me. But please, let's continue on.
So I hope that we just kind of opened up the topic of renting is always throwing money away. Is it a lie? Yeah, I think it is. But is it a 100% truth? Probably not. It's somewhere in the middle. And anyone that says always or never, that's the only time they're always wrong. Because there are, like, the world is not binary. So many people think that renting is throwing money away. Some people think that house is the best asset you can own. But in many ways, so many people go through life thinking that owning my house, that's an investment in my future. But investments are things that put money in your pocket. When was the last time that your house, your primary house, if you're being honest with yourself, put money in your pocket? If you're not renting it out, if you're not house hacking, you're not doing any of those things, I'm going to say it's probably next to zero.
100%.
Now, do houses appreciate? Do they do all these things? Yes, they do. But if you look at the historical data, they only keep in line with inflation. Now, there are times like during COVID and stuff like that where certain areas pop off and certain areas don't. But you have to remember that at a time, Detroit was the mecca of America. Like, that was the place that was popping off. Everyone wanted to buy properties in Detroit, and no one wanted to buy properties in San Francisco. And San Francisco was cold and it was raining and all these things. Who would have known back then that the person that bought the house in Detroit, who thought they were being so smart, they bought in the right location, that all of the steel manufacturing and car companies would pull out of there? Who would have thought that all that would have happened and we would have offshored everything to China? And then that city destroyed. And the people that just happened to live in San Francisco bought an area that they thought was inexpensive, a place that they wanted to live. Who would have known that Silicon Valley would have started there? So it's not always a great investment. You can make it. It could be the best investment at the time and it still not work out. And that's the nice thing about renting. If you rented in Detroit right before, and then everything went to hell in a handbag when all the manufacturers left, okay, cool. At least I'm renting. Next year when my lease is up, I'm moving to somewhere else.
Yeah.
But if you're locked into that house, how are you going to sell it when no one else wants it?
It's true. It's true. I think oftentimes real estate is looked at as like the golden child of investing, at least in circles that I'm in. And, a sword has two edges, right? It can be great. It can be bad. It could be the anchor that weighs you down. I heard a story of this property, multifamily property, maybe 15 doors, which means 15 units, right? 15 families living in there. Apartment complex, right? Out in Texas, big state, right? This property was in basically the middle of nowhere, basically. And he bought it for cheap. And one thing that I always learned from the people I follow in real estate, they say, before you buy a property, know who you're going to sell it to. Know the exit before going in. And this guy, he didn't understand this. So he bought this property in the middle of nowhere. And it makes money, sure, right? But he can't get rid of it. And now his kids are going to have to inherit it. And they're going to hate him for it, right? Because now they have to, anytime there's a repair, they got to go out 2 hours into the middle of nowhere to help fix this. And they have to, for the owners, right? So renting, owning, I think all of it's always glorified in the way you want to look at it, right? You're going to be skewed either way. But, if I'm straight out of high school, straight out of college, I don't have the money to buy a house. I don't have that. I want to be honest with you. I'm coming out clean. I don't have the money to buy a house right now. Can't do it. So renting makes sense. But I love the points that you were giving, Chris. And with the effort of being efficient and time-based, because Lord help us if we make this into a part 4. I'm not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. It dies today. It dies today. So we're going to move on to our next point, if you will.
Yes. Number 13 of our biggest money lies. You can't build wealth without a 6-figure salary. How many of us have heard something like this? Oh, I can't save. I can't invest. I can't do anything. Once I make $100,000, then I can start to save money. Then, of course, eventually maybe you reach that money. It's like, well, I can't do it now. Once I reach $200,000, then I can start. When I hit this magic number, then I can start saving for my future. Then I can start becoming quote unquote wealthy. I can start being good with money when I reach this magic number. But in truth, there are many, many, many millionaires who started with an average salary, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. They focused on saving, they focused on investing, and they avoided the dreaded lifestyle inflation. In truth, I think lifestyle inflation is the biggest killer of wealth.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree 100%. It makes me think procrastination is really what it is. Because if you think about it, I'll just save once I have more money. I'll just get healthier when I have a better meal plan. I'll just do this when I have that. I think the actions you don't choose, that's the level you fall to. I'll choose to donate to my church when I have more money. I'll choose to help the guy on the side of the bridge when my bills are paid. Right? And I think oftentimes I hear this a lot, and it kind of frustrates me a little bit when you hear people say like the rich are evil. They're so evil. If I had that money, I'd be a good person. I'd help out. I'd build schools in Haiti. Start now. The little Haitian kid, anything would help, And I always dislike the pointing fingers, right? Because it's not about how much you make; it's about how much you keep, how much you can multiply. But you can't multiply if you don't keep any, right?
I think you bring up a really good point. There are a lot of people nowadays that they hate the rich. They're like, oh, that the fact that there are millionaires and billionaires are awful, and we should destroy them all and take their money back to us, the people, because they stole it from us, or whatever thought people have. And please know, listeners, that when we talk about this, like we're not espousing truth. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is objectively true or anything like that. What I really want to do is open the conversation between Dominic and I, between you, our listener, to at least have your mind opened a little bit more, to see things in a different light. Because in truth, the scariest thing is when you can't learn because you already know. When you say, I know something definitively, you've closed yourself off to learning anything more. So recently I was having a conversation with somebody who was, my wife and I, we went on a vacation. We were talking with some people and they were saying, you know what? I don't think billionaires should exist. Billionaires are awful people. They're all bad. We should just get rid of all of them. And at the time that we were having this conversation, we were in Africa, in Kenya. And right before we went to Kenya, we were in Nairobi, which is the capital of there. And it is rough, very, very rough. And there are people out in the bush when we were out on our safari that live in these dirt huts with tin roofs. And I had made the point to that person that we were talking, that the way that they view billionaires, that they shouldn't exist, that we should kill them, that we should take all their money back. How do you think the people of Africa, the people in these huts, view you?
Yeah.
Coming to their country, visiting, having a house that is way larger than you need, having cars, having all of these things, never having to worry if you're going to be able to eat tonight, never having to worry if I'm going to be able to feed my kids. The way that you view billionaires, they view you. Do you think that you should be destroyed? You should be killed and your things should be taken away from you? And they're like, no, but I'm different. Only in America can we go through life hating the rich, believing that they're the source of all evil, and secretly strive to become them. And believe that once I reach that level, I won't be that person though. I'll be somehow different. I'll be magical. It's like watching a person who drives, the most badass Bugatti, Lamborghini, whatever vehicle you like. When you watch that person drive by, No one ever looks at that person and goes like, wow, that person's so cool. You look at that person, you look at that car, and you probably think like, oh, that person's probably a douchebag. But if I had that car, I would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be the person that I want to be. But in truth, the person you want to be is here right now. And it's you.
I think that is so interesting. We should thank goodness. We should thank God that the people in Africa are a humble people. And they're not like these greedy Americans like us, right? If we, because we're billionaires, we're millionaires. What's the difference between a billionaire and a millionaire when you go to Africa? How much? How much? I mean, if we're being honest, rich is rich. Anything above, if Chris is worth 100 million or he's worth 2 billion, is there a difference? I'm sure. But to me, who I have dirt walls, there's no difference. They're just richer than I. So they're such an interesting people who are living in these third world countries. I think there's so much we can learn from them. There's so much we can learn from them because we've become so greedy, so capitalistic, so keeping up with the Joneses that we don't even recognize it. I know we talk about it on the podcast how it's like, it's like, hey, whatever, your neighbor's got a new car, you don't have to go out and get a new car, right? That's keeping up with the Joneses. We don't want to be like that. But we're like that every day. Maybe it's not with big purchases. Maybe it's with small purchases. I heard a quote recently, since we're talking about, salary and building wealth with your salary. Your salary is just a tool. It's not a limit, right? The real game is how you play with it. And I always love that quote because millionaires are made in discipline. And let's be honest, some of us, myself included, we lack a little bit of discipline. And the life that you have is the life that you chose based on the comforts that you fall to.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say it's not tough. Of course it's tough. And people that say like, oh, Chris and Dom are saying like, we don't have to focus on making more money. Of course I'm not saying that. If the path to financial independence, the path to being good with money is how much money you make minus how much money you spend equals how much money you can save, invest, do whatever you want with. We have two handles to pull from. But here in America, we only pull from one handle. Hey, in order to have more, you can either spend less or you can make more. But no one wants to sacrifice. No one, like you say, like, hey, if you want to live, you want to do this, do you want to spend less money or do you want to make more money? Everyone always goes, I'm just going to make more money, make more money, make more money. From a personal story, back when I got out of college, I was probably making $40,000. Back then, I wasn't saving money. I wasn't doing anything. I was, I think I put 10% into a 401k because God willing, at one point, someone said, you won't need to put 10%. And it got in my brain. I just started doing it. I didn't even think about it. It just was. Then eventually I started learning about financial independence. Maybe my income grew to $50,000 or $60,000, 70, 80. It just kept on going up. And as I was not making six figures for a long time when I was getting started on this path to financial independence, but even though that entire time I was saving a significant amount, upwards of 50% of my income was being saved between my HSA, my Roth IRA, and my 401k. I was maxing all of those out while only making $60,000, $70,000. I was maxing out all those accounts. Was it hard? Yeah, it was hard. But it made it easier so that nowadays, 10 years later, I have this portfolio that has grown substantially. And I did that all before making six figures. Now, I'm not going to say don't strive to make more money. Of course, you need to strive to make more money. And if you continue to put it off until you make more money to start saving, to start trying to better yourself, there's a good chance when you get there, you're just going to kick the can down the road again. You need to start to build this muscle up.
It's those small, consistent habits that create big financial outcomes, right? It's the muscle that Chris talked about. You have to exercise it if you want it to grow. So make sure you're growing the right muscles because every action you take or action you don't take, you're training yourself, your life, and how the world will be around you. So make sure that you're living a life with intention. And that's something that I've been really struggling with recently is living a life of intention. Not just thinking like, okay, we're going to record the podcast today so that we can grow tomorrow and so that we can help impact more people. Okay, Great. That's great. It's not just what you are doing, but it's what you're not doing or what you hesitate to do, right? Today, I woke up at 8 a.m., right? Chris and I are going to record at 9. I got out of bed at 8:05. Why did it take me 5 minutes? I was up at 7:59. Why did it take me that long, right? Because I hesitated, right? And just in that little hiccup, that little jump, right? That can become a habit. Now, granted, it's come down significantly from like 30 minutes to 20 minutes to 10 minutes. Now we're down to like 5-6 minutes, right? So I'm getting better in that area, but I just want to help open your mind up to every decision that you make or don't make has an impact on you today and in your future. So make sure to pay attention to the things that you do and the things that you say, because what you say and what you do is who you become. And I don't know about you, but that is quite important to me. So with that being said, I would love to move on to our next point, if that's cool with you, Chris.
Of course, yeah.
So,
Number 14. This is a big one that I talk with a lot with my retired clients. And this is: retirement means you stop working. That's the money lie. For me especially, I'll see it in the comments like, oh, if Chris is financially independent, then why is he still working? Why does he have this company? Why is he doing all this stuff?
Yeah.
Well, because the lie is that when you retire, it means that you stop working. I can tell you from firsthand experience, everyone wants to get to a point where they don't have to make money anymore and sit on a beach drinking margaritas every day. Sit inside their house just watching Netflix and chilling and just eating whatever you want, going to the gym. It's really boring. It's fun for like 2 weeks. It's fun for a month. But the person that is able to fight through everything to become financially independent, to retire early, they are not the person that just stops without something there for them. And that's the reason that I'm doing everything that I'm doing. It's not for myself. It's for my kids. Kids I don't even have yet. Many people who achieve financial independence still choose to work at things that they enjoy. Retirement isn't about not working. It's about having the freedom to choose what you do for work, but not quitting work completely. Because I truly believe that to retire, to do nothing, is to just give up on life.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal as human beings is to grow ourselves, to become better in the service of other people. And how do you, just reaching retirement, saying I'm just going to play backgammon all day and I don't know, watch TV? How is that?
Yeah. Wheel of Fortune or
how
something.
How is that going to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to not feel fulfilled in any way, shape, or form, because first off, you're not serving yourself, you're not growing, but more importantly, you're not serving other people by doing nothing. So the biggest money lie is that retirement means that you stop working. No, retirement means that you stop working on things that you don't want to do anymore. But it gives you the freedom to choose how you want to work, how you want to live your life. And that could be anything. That could just be giving your time back for volunteering. This could be giving time to your grandkids. Work is work is work is work. Just because you're making a income from it, that doesn't mean that it's not work. Anything that you get out of bed and go out and do stuff is work.
I always like this quote: to retire is to expire. And it's so true, right? And I'm not saying like, hey, guys, let's work till we die. I want to be 90 at my same job. God, no. Please, no. That would suck. That would definitely suck, right? But I love what you're saying there, Chris. I love that, retirement isn't the end goal, right? You really should be, the thought of someone retiring and then waiting to die is like the saddest thing to me. That sucks. That freaking blows, right? As humans, we need purpose. We need a bone to chase, a bone to pick, right? We need purpose, right? That's kind of why when you see someone with a family member that might have dementia, right? Give them a task, give them a purpose. Oh, and they light up, right? Because for a time they might feel useless, out of place, a burden. Now you're giving them a reason to continue. And there was this story that I always loved. It was about a man who was living a very unhealthy life. And maybe you guys can picture this, but very unhealthy, very overweight, right? His heart couldn't take it anymore. And he went to the doctor to get a checkup, and the doctor said, "Do you want another man walking your daughter down the aisle?" And the man starts freaking out. He starts panicking. I mean, truthfully. And the doctor says, "If you continue down this path, another man will walk your daughter down the aisle." He's like, "Well, what can I do to change it?" He's like, "You need to start eating healthy. You need to start exercising. You need to start watching what you eat. You need to change your life in a completely different direction." And when you have a reason to change, a good enough reason to change, you'll move mountains, right? You'll do whatever it takes. If your mom is in a burning building and both your legs have, your torn ACLs, you're just gonna let her burn? I don't think so, right? At least not. So I think it's so important to always have that strong why and always have a strong purpose behind the work that you do. And the work doesn't have to be the most important work to the world. I don't have to be building wells in a third world country. I don't have to be saving the country, right? If the purpose is important to you, it's enough. And I hope that, and I say this in code, I guess, but I hope you never retire. I hope that you keep on fighting, you keep on battling with yourself to improve yourself and grow yourself and just discover more. I mean, that we're on a giant rock spinning through endlessness, and there's so much to discover, and I hope you get to do it all.
Beautifully said. I don't think I want to add anything to that. I'm just going to end that, and we're going to move on to number 15 of our biggest money lies.
Let's do it.
Number 15 this is a big one here in America. We already kind of talked about it, but more money will solve all of your problems.
Yeah. That's a crazy take. That's crazy. Chris and you and I both know this, but money only solves money problems. And I know when you feel poor, you think it'll solve everything. But guess what? Like, if Chris and I are beefing and he hates my guts and I hate his guts, if I make 100K this year, that's not going to change much. Unless I owe him like 50K, it might change a little bit. But yeah, money only really solves money problems. What's your take on that one, Chris?
No, I think you're exactly right there. I mean, if you don't, let's just bring it back to like money habits.
Yeah.
If you don't have good money habits, and this is the hard thing about it, is a good income, having a lot of money, hides bad money habits really, really well. It hides it. Doesn't get rid of it, but it hides it so that eventually it gets to come out. But if you have more money, it only magnifies your bad financial decisions. It only makes the situation far worse later on. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road for when am I going to suffer? Money only solves money problems, just like Dominic said. So if you have a high income, but you have bad habits, eventually it will catch up with you. Eventually the piper has to be paid. And then also, if you're having a disagreements with your kids, if your kids don't like you, if you and your spouse are having marital issues, if you and your neighbor are feuding, if you don't have a best friend, if you think that, oh, once I have a bunch more money, once I'm a millionaire, a billionaire, a quadrillionaire, my kids will love me, my wife will respect me, my husband will actually like me, friends will want to just be around me, my neighbor won't dislike me anymore because I'm a POS. None of those things are true. Having more money just magnifies who you are. And if people don't like who you are without money, they're not going to like you with money.
Yeah.
They're just going to want to be around you, maybe to try to take money from you. But that's a transactional friendship. That's a transactional relationship. That's not real.
Yeah. I think too often you got it. Another one.
Yeah. Back in the day, there was this big, is a rapper, MC Hammer. I'm sure you guys have heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So MC Hammer, when he was worth a lot, songs were on fleek, everything was going well. He had this huge entourage with him all the time. People would go with him everywhere. They'd hang out at his house, party with all this stuff. Well, the moment that he went bankrupt, all of those friends disappeared in an instant. And these people that think like, oh, I have so much friends, I have all these people around me, all these people love me. You realize when the shoe drops, who actually is your friend? Who has been there with you when you had nothing? Hopefully your spouse, hopefully your best friend. And if they stick with you through the ups, through the downs, then that's real friendship. That's real growth. That's a real person that you want in your life. But the person that seems to just come in and out, depending on what you can offer them, that's the reason that maybe you feel like you're always at risk. Because in truth, you are. Because your love, your marriage, your friendship is transactional. It's not real. It's not unconditional love. It is conditional love on you being able to offer something to somebody.
And I think that's something that a lot of men struggle with, right? They feel like the paycheck, they feel like I'm just the at-home bank, right? I that's all I'm good for, right? And I would disagree. I would disagree. I think there's immense value in a quality man of the house, whether that's a husband, a father, a brother or sister, right? Not a sister, but you understand what I'm saying. Speaking from the male perspective, that is, your worth is a lot more than you think. And it goes for all of us. Right? We don't really understand how much people value each other. We don't really talk about that as much. Like I appreciate Chris, right? I appreciate him so much, but it's hard to, words don't do it justice. Right? You need to feel it. And sometimes it's very difficult to make someone feel something, right? It's very difficult. But going back to the glorification of money, for some, I don't know why we've glorified money in this world. I think it's nasty. Money is just a tool. It's not a trophy. You should chase purpose, not paper. And I understand why you would chase paper. I understand why you would chase money. But the best moments I've had in my life, money was included because it took money to get to those moments. Vacations with my family, visiting XYZ, all these different things, right? But we glorify the money, not the moments. And I think moments can be created here at home. And maybe I'm off. Maybe you're arguing me in the comments already. But I think money is important. But I don't think it's the most important.
I agree with you. There was a American philosopher, his name was David Foster Wallace, who unfortunately committed suicide. But before he passed away, he gave this amazing speech, a commencement speech. It was called "This is Water." After this podcast, I would definitely recommend going and Googling it or YouTubing it. Just "This is Water" speech. In the speech, he talks that we have a God-shaped hole in our heart, something that we all need to worship, something. We need to bow to the altar, try to have something bigger than us. And in the speech, he says, if you worship money, you will always feel poor. If you worship strength, you will always feel weak. If you worship beauty, you will always feel ugly. And you will die 1,000 times before your actual true death. You get to choose what you want to worship. I understand why we have glorified money, because money is a personification of your worth to the universe, how much value you brought in. And we've confused that with, if you have more money, you must be more worthy. You must have brought more value to the world. But that's not necessarily true. But if you believe that whatever you're doing, whatever value you bring to the world, that doesn't have to be monetary. It can be in the form of raising your kids, being a good pillar of the community, helping children, helping adults, helping animals. If we are just consciousness trying to figure itself out, by helping anyone, you're helping everyone. Helping yourself is helping everyone. More money does solve problems. I hate when people say that, like, oh, well, if you had more money, it wouldn't solve problems, or more money, more problems. That is true to a point. Money does solve a lot of problems. It solves a great many problems, but it will not solve all of your problems. There are some problems in this world that you need to solve that money will not help with. Your relationships, your value as a human being, your happiness, your contentness, the thing that you choose to worship. Those things will never be solved by money.
I think you're spot on. I don't think there's anything I'd like to add to that, but I would like to go to our next one.
Of course. Number 16. This is a big one, especially right now with how the stock market's been. Money lie number 16 is investing is too risky. How many times have you heard that? I can't invest right now. It's just too. I don't invest. What I do is I just save money on my mattress, and in like 30 or 40 years, I'm going to be good.
Warren Buffett had a quote that I really liked. It was, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And I always love that quote. It's so true because, man, how many times in life where it's like you feel nervous, right, about what you're about to do? Well, it's because you've probably never done it before. I know that's how it was in my job where I work, right? I didn't want to have to pick up the phone and make calls. I don't know everything. So if they ask me a question that I don't know about, I'm going to feel like an idiot. I'm going to feel stupid. I'm going to have to figure out a way to pivot, right? Well, that was just because I didn't know what I was doing. But now since I do it, repetition, learn, I don't have that fear anymore. The fear, and it doesn't feel like a risk, me picking up the phone. And that might seem so silly, right? And the beautiful thing about our world, our economy, is I might have a very rudimentary knowledge base for investing, right? But I can always hire someone like Chris over at Monzon Wealth to help me with that. Someone who spent their life in finance, working on it, understanding it, and really building a business around it, right? To help people. And I love that because I don't feel like I'm risking as much, right? When you have a smart guide who's already been there. Right? It's always better to go with a guide than to go alone, because if you go alone, scary times indeed. Maybe you could talk on that for a second. Alone.
I don't know if there's anything that we actually do in life truly alone. There's always somebody that sent us in the direction that we learned from, right? Including myself. Like, I've never done anything truly alone. No one comes into this world alone. No one leaves this world alone. Like, if you're alive today listening to this, you are not alone. Someone at some point helped you. If you were a baby at some point, you wouldn't have made it to hear this podcast if someone didn't care for you.
Yeah.
Too many people think that investing is risky because I think that we fear the things that we don't understand. And I agree that the stock market is scary if you don't understand what it means, if you don't understand what it actually represents. But what I think that not investing is actually the bigger risk. Keeping money in your bank account, under your couch, in a shoebox in your closet is guaranteed to lose money to inflation over time. If there's one thing that all governments cannot stop doing, despite how much we all want them to, is continue to print money. They can't stop. They're hooked on the drug. It's so difficult as a government, to make money. Governments don't make money. They only extract. Governments are not asset producing. They don't do anything to make money. They only help by spending money. So in order for them to make money, in order to make revenue, they have to tax people. And they tax and they tax and they tax. But when you're in a system like our system here in America, where you have to get elected every 4 years, and the biggest thing that people hate are taxes, well, what do every single politician have to do? They have to guarantee that they're going to lower taxes. Well, if they're guaranteeing they're going to lower taxes, how are they going to be able to pay for all the resources that they're saying they're going to do? So what do? They print money. There's a secret tax that no one knows about. It's called inflation, where they go out there and they just go under the ledger and they print more money. They're not actually printing physical money. It's just more money is being produced. There's more money in circulation. And it's backed by America saying, if you don't believe us, we'll send our military and destroy you.
Yep.
And that's the way that our system actually works. And that's the reason that so many people feel angry. They feel like they don't understand why they're not getting ahead. I'm saving more money and it's not going anywhere. Well, because no matter how much money you're saving, there's somebody else somewhere else who's just making more money, which is devaluing your money. They're taxing you secretly. That's what inflation does. That is the reason I think that so many people are angry. And it's unfortunate that we live in a system that you have to gamble, you have to speculate in order to keep up with that. I would love to have a system that was like the gold standard, like we used to have, or a Bitcoin standard, or a standard where money is hard. There's hard money. But unfortunately, that's not the system we're in. We're in a system that forces you to gamble in order to just stay alive. But there are ways to invest to minimize your risk. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need to go out and seek that information. You need to ask, you need to look for guidance. But I promise you that it's out there. But all things in life are risky. I think that the bigger risk, though, is to not invest, to not do anything, just to try to, I have my $100, I'm going to save that $100. But in 10, 20, 30 years, that $100 might buy you $8, $10 worth of goods today. And that's the real scary part about not investing. Again, I hate that our system forces us to gamble in order to just keep up. Yet that's the system we're in. So until we change it, we have to play by the rules and try to fight to change the rules so that our future generations don't have to go through the same things that we are. But just sticking your head in the sand and saying that it's not real, I'm not going to deal with it, is not going to help. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help future people.
What an interesting thought, though. You oftentimes hearing about, we need to cut defense spending, we need to increase Social Security, or we need to cut Social Security, we need to do this, we need to do that. Nobody lobbies for not printing any more money. I've never heard that once, and I really got deep into politics a while back. And you're so right, if their spending is out of control, why would you kill the golden goose? Even though the golden goose is actively poisoning the eggs, right? I figure that if they ever did stop printing, and I mean make it illegal in the country, we'd be in for a storm and a half, for sure. Investing can be scary sometimes. And I love what you were saying that, you're never really alone what you're doing. And it just kind of cracked me up. I was like, yeah, you're never alone when you have the voices in your head, right? Yeah, right? Yeah, everybody is chanting, yeah. And it's just so, I gotta say, you're so right, though. None of us are alone. I think we always think that, man, I'm living a unique experience, man. I mean, nobody's lived this life. Dude, brother. There's 16 people within 100 miles that are living your life, at least. So calm down a little bit. So, yeah, investing is scary sometimes. It doesn't have to be. Is there any other points? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just that fear comes from not understanding. So when you're afraid of something, just seek to understand more. Doesn't mean the fear is going to go away entirely, but it will dissipate. Because there are always things in life that we're never going to fully understand. The universe, the cosmos, consciousness. I don't understand any of these things, and they scare the living hell out of me. And that's the reason that I seek to understand them a little bit better. What are these things? What's the purpose of life? Why are we all here? What is death? What happens after death? Of course it's scary because we don't understand it. But if you decide to seek it and to try to learn more from other people, try to learn more from your own experiences, it becomes a little bit less scary. The fear doesn't always go away entirely, but it makes it more manageable rather than paralyzing. And too many people are paralyzed when it comes to money. They are paralyzed to do anything other than what they're doing. And what they're doing is not serving them. We know this because people don't have $400 to their name to do anything. People are struggling to do so many things. So why do you keep on doing the exact same thing and expecting a different outcome? You have to take control. If you are stuck in the middle of a desert and no one is coming to find you, the worst thing you can do is sit down and do nothing. Moving in any direction is better than sitting down and doing nothing.
And I think, we've all been in a similar situation like that. And it's like, well, Chris, I have to come up with the perfect plan. Then I'll execute. I got to find the right direction to go. then I can start walking, and I don't want to make the wrong move and then have to backtrack. It's like, is that the wrong move? Now, granted, I know you shouldn't just run blindly. You should have at least a little bit of sense of where you should go. But for that person who's kind of stuck in that place, how do they take control? How do they regain the reins on their financial life?
Through conscious effort.
Yeah.
Through trying every day, getting a little bit better. What do we always say? 1% better every day.
Yep.
I'm not asking you to go from where you are right now to Warren Buffett. I'm not asking you to go where you are right now to Bill Gates, to Elon Musk, to Bezos, to Zuckerberg. I'm asking you to get 1% better than you are today. Google something, ChatGPT it. The world is a scary place. I grant you that. There are a lot of things that are wrong, yet we have all of human knowledge, or at least what we think all of human knowledge is, as much of human knowledge as we possibly have, at our fingertips. There used to be a time that if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to a library, find a book, and read it. Remember in Harry Potter when they're trying to figure out what the Sorcerer's Stone is, and Hermione looks for like a whole year to figure it out, and doesn't figure it out, then they have to go and sneak into the restricted section to read about something? You can turn on incognito mode on your phone right now and Google anything to your heart's desire. Anything that you're afraid to know about, just go for it. Ask any crazy question to ChatGPT. It will not judge you. It will give you the answer to the best of its ability. If you don't like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you want. We have so much knowledge, but people are afraid to use it. Don't be afraid. Just start. And please know that Dominic and I don't benefit in any way, shape, or form. We don't benefit from your failure or your success directly, but indirectly, we all benefit as a society if you do better, if you are a better person. Because those ripples in a pond will continue to grow. Eventually, that becomes a tidal wave of change. And that's what we're trying to do here in our small little part. Dominic, are you okay if we move on to step number 50 or to number 17?
Absolutely. I just want to, just one more point that you said that is literally like a gravestone worth. Like, I mean, it was so good. The quote was, "Seek to understand more." I love that. I love that. Seek to understand more. And that really just solidifies, I mean, your whole way of life, Chris. And I love seeing, how a person is translated into a beautiful quote. And I love it. I had to say it. I wrote it down in my notes. I put it in our notes here in Notion. And I love that. Seek to understand more. I can only wish that purpose and that curiousness on everyone. Imagine if everyone was that curious to seek to understand more. But yes, with our final one, is it truly our final one, or was there?
I'm not. We're never going to touch this subject again. We've done it 3 times. We're done. No,
I'm done with it. All right.
Again, the funny thing is, while I was gone, I thought of like 6 more money lies that because like you just talk with people, like people will say things like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I heard this." You're like, "That's a money lie." And but I was like, I'm not going to write them down. I'm just going to let them. I'm going to let them go to the ether, and we'll pick them up later.
Maybe like a bonus one in Five Friday. Maybe if you guys want to catch one of those mystery money lies on Friday's episode, don't forget to follow us and stay tuned for Friday's episode where we recap Monday's episode. But yes, number 17, you should avoid credit cards altogether. Right?
You got it for us. Yep, that is it.
That is it.
This is the big one. The reason I added this as number 17 is because I'm really big into credit card hacking, right? Yeah. And when I used to work as a financial advisor for somebody, everyone knew in the firm that I'm this guy that does this weird stuff with credit cards, and I travel all the time. And everyone's like, "What? How do you do it?" And I went to my boss. I was like, "We should teach our clients how to do these things. Like the things that I do. Like I'm the perfect person to do it because I do it all the time."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Chris, we can't do that because we know that credit cards are bad. We should tell our clients to avoid credit cards." And me as this guy's employee, and this guy was a financial advisor, more experience than me, more years, more everything. I was like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, I'm showing you, I'm living proof that it's just a tool."
Mm-hmm.
This pen is a good tool. If I go around and take it out and start stabbing people in the eyes, then the pen is a bad tool. But the pen is just the pen. The pen just is. The thing that I do with it is what makes it good or bad. When you use responsibly credit cards that offer rewards, protections, convenience, credit cards are not bad. Credit cards just are. The way you choose to use them is what makes it good or bad. What serves you or doesn't serve you. The key is to pay off your balance every month, to not overextend yourself, to not get a credit limit of $10,000 and to assume I now have $10,000 that I have to spend like it's a fire sale. Remember that credit card is just a fancy word for debt card. And if you think of it that way, then go out and use it responsibly. Don't overextend yourself. Use the money as if it was a debit card. Track your money, know exactly how much money you have coming in, and know exactly how much money is going out. That is the first step. And credit cards are a great way to make sure that you don't overextend yourself. It's a great beginner level move, maybe mid-level move.
I think it's such an interesting way to reframe yourself. And life, if you guys can learn one skill, there's so many skills to learn, but if you guys could learn a skill this week or this month or this year, right, it would be to how to kind of put it in the right way, but kind of how to train yourself to reframe things, right? If you can reframe things, you can basically like do like a Jedi mind trick on yourself. Right? It's like, dude, I don't want to go to the gym today, dude. I'm freaking tired. I really don't want to go to the gym. Like, let's reframe it. I understand that you're tired. Let's reframe it. Right? If I don't go to the gym today, I'm going to feel like crap later. I'm going to be even more depressed later because I know I didn't get it in. I didn't go to the gym. Right? I'm getting unhealthier. Right? I'm getting weaker. Right? My dad said something to me the other day. This was like maybe a month ago. And it cracked me up. I hadn't gone to the gym for maybe a month, right? Long time, right? Running and whatnot. And he had started, and I think it's important to have conversations like this, but he said to me, he said, you know, every day I go to the gym, I'm getting stronger. And every day you're not going to the gym, you're getting weaker. And he wasn't joking. And there was no laugh. And it was hilarious because it was so brutal. It was so in your face. And it was like, damn, bro, damn, that hurts. But it's true. And it changed the way I saw things. It changed my framework, right? Now, every time I go to the gym, I'm putting 10, 15, 20 more pounds on just out of spite, right? Just to dominate him. And big shout out to you, Dad. But reframing how you see things is so important. Credit card, I'm just going to put it on credit. I'm just going to put it on debt so that later on I will pay it. I'll put it on a debt card. I'm trading now for later. Later for now. I think it's so interesting if you go into the grocery store and you see eggs at $8 a gallon or $8 a freaking dozen or whatever it is nowadays. And it's like, okay, I'm going to put this on credit card. It's like, dude, this isn't no $8 eggs. This could be $10 eggs, $12 eggs, depending on when you pay it off. These might be $100 eggs, depending on when you pay it off. I think it's always wise to be conscious and always wise to make sure that you keep the right mental framework and always keep mental frameworks that serve you and your purpose. So oftentimes we have frameworks in our lives that just don't serve us. And I'm sure you guys can think of a few. Maybe, Chris, you can even have an example of one. That's kind of my take on that.
No, I think you're good. And in the advent of time, I think we can end this podcast. And I hope that our audience comes back on Friday so we can continue this conversation. We'll go a little bit more deep into the philosophy of things. We can kind of talk more deeply on these money lies, these last 6 that we talked about today. But before we go, I want to leave our audience with our action step of the week because, you know, if you listen to this, great, but you need to start to take some action. Entertainment without action is just, or education without action is just entertainment. And we're all about taking action here. So your action step this week is to look at the truths that you have in your life about money, about anything that you know 100% this is the way the world works, and question them. Would you bet your life on it? Would you bet your parents' life, your sister, your kids' life on this truth? Because in truth, to me, The scariest things are what you know. The things that you don't even question are real. Because what if you're wrong, but you go through your whole life believing that whatever you think is right, just to find out at the end that everything you thought you knew was incorrect, and you lived your life to a smaller realm than you had to because you believed something that was false. Question everything, and question it again, and question it again, and question it again. Because at the end of the day, the only thing in the world, in life, that is truth is physics, the baseline physics of reality. And we don't understand that at all. We understood Newtonian physics. We thought we had it down pat. We thought we got it. And then we start to figure out quantum physics, theoretical physics. Even freaking 80% of our universe is made up by a matter that we can't comprehend, we can't interact with, but we know it's there because if it isn't, then the universe doesn't work. We call it dark matter. We call it dark energy. Dark is a bad term because people think that it's like some sort of like antimatter. That's not what it is. It's just that we can't see it.
Yeah.
Even Einstein was baffled by it. He thought it wasn't real because he was so stuck in Newtonian physics. So, if the only things of reality is what physics dictates are impossible to do, but we don't understand physics, then at this point, anything is possible. I'm not telling you to go try to jump off a bridge. I'm not telling you to try to fly tomorrow. But I'm telling you that whatever is holding you back is most likely a limiting belief that is only in your head. And the only way to get past it is to question it. To question it, to know, is it real? Not just to believe, but to know 100% it's real. And in my analogy and the way that I think of things, I know nothing. I know with 100% certainty of nothing, with the exception that I exist.
I love that. It's a beautiful way to end. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know I did. And if you did, feel free to give us a like, give us a follow if you're not already following on whatever platform you are listening on. Just a heads up, we are on all of the podcast platforms as well as YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. And yes, they are quite handsome. That being said, we will see you on Friday's episode. Be on the lookout for new shorts this week. Be on the lookout for those middle of the week viewer mailbags that we love to drop if you don't end up joining us for Friday's episode. But I do recommend you join us for Friday's episode. Biased or not, I think Friday's episodes are the most fun. They're the most energetic. They're great. They're a great way to start the weekend. They're a great way to listen to Monday's recap. And with that being said, we hope that you share it with a friend, right? Because let's be honest, going on this journey is so much more fun when you're going with a friend. It's so much more fun. Bounce ideas off each other, competitiveness, gamify it, right? Sometimes we choose to go alone. And I believe that is not always the best way forward, right? So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. You learned something from it. Most importantly, I hope you take action from something you learned from this episode. Like Chris said, education without action is just entertainment. With that being said, we're the Five Guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See you Friday. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.